Decisions. They're tough, but I gotta figure it out. Welcome to the Hideout today. Please click to subscribe to the channel. I really appreciate it. Click that you like, make some comments. Click the little ringy dingy out there so you get a notification for our next video. Now, it's hot as hell outside, but I'm going to go out and shoot just because, number one, I love to shoot. Number two, I hope you join me. But number three, I've got to make a decision on something coming up in a couple of months. You know, in a couple of months, I've got an opportunity to go black bear hunting up in Alaska. Absolutely, probably, without a doubt, my most favorite hunting trip. But it's going to put a little spin on it this time. You know, in the past, I take a rifle and I take a 44 Magnum backup and a chest rig. I think everyone should take one. This is a little bit different. My guide has agreed that, number one, we're going to try to take one with a handgun. Of course, Sarge 1911 wants to take one with what? His favorite little girl, a 1911. The guide's a little bit fishy on that. He's thinking something big and strong with a big scope on it and everything else, and that's not really my deal. But I've got to make a decision. The guide, I am going to work with the guide. This is his rules, so I'm probably going to take a couple of things and be prepared. And I think that's key, be prepared. Now, before we dive off into handguns, while I talk about prepared, I'm going to go ahead and throw this out there. There's two things that professional guides always complain about when people go hunting. Number one, they're physically out of shape. So that's right, old Sarge is hitting a treadmill, you know, doing my 3 miles a day uphill, trying to, you know, drop a little weight, get that heart in good shape, be ready to go. But the second thing they complain about is, hey, we can't shoot. That's typically not my problem, but many times we can't shoot. So, you know, when you start to spend your money and go on these trips, number one and two things: get physically ready to go. Number two, practice. Let's get on with it. So, Sarge 1911 is trying to decide what he wants to do. Well, I've got it narrowed down to a couple, but we're going to go through a little thing. One of my first videos that I did ever was on a 460 Rowland. It was also my first little bitch slap by YouTube. They did not like it at all. Give me a little bad comments and crap. That, you know, right away we knew we weren't going to get along. But we got past it. So what I had at the time, I had a Kimber, this one right here, 1911, that I put a 460 kit in it. Mrs. Sarge 1911 bought it for me for a birthday or something. Hell, she probably just did it because she loves me. Anyway, she bought me a 460 Rowland kit. So I decided, well, I put it in this Kimber. Get in trouble with YouTube. Okay, go fast forward. If you look at the sights on that Kimber, those white dots there, I'm not real keen on shooting these things out in long distances. And if I'm going to shoot black bear, I need to take and make an ethical shot, right? I don't want to go and shoot something past my capabilities. So let's practice and improve our capabilities. So I want to take a 1911, but a 45 just don't have the juice, so I move up to a 460. I swapped my 460 out and I put it in this. This is a Springfield Range Officer. If you'll notice, I want you to take a look at the sights on this. These are adjustable sights. I can adjust for windage and elevation and all on these. So I think this is going to be a whole lot better selection versus this Kimber. And I'm not dishing Kimber, but for bear hunting, I like the, you know, the ability to adjust the sights and get them out there where I want. Now, we're going to talk just a little bit about the ammo in a minute, but you know, this handgun right here, this Springfield, I'll do a trigger pull on it. It needs work. And what I mean by needing work, I'm going to have a trigger pull on it that's not what I like. Let me do that real quick. It's just over 4, so probably the time I break it in good and shoot it, I might be okay. But I don't like the trigger as much as I do. The big difference between these two handguns, other than the sights, is with that 460 Rowland kit, I got like a 24-pound spring in there. It is hell to assemble and disassemble. I mean, a real pain in the ass. I don't want to do that shit no more than I have to. So as far as cleaning between now and a couple months, I'm probably going to spray shit in it, shake it around, blow it out, and that's all the cleaning it's going to get where my finger can get. That'll be it. My other options are 44 Magnum. I've got a couple 44 Magnums, but if you look at this Ruger Super Blackhawk in 44 Magnum, 6 rounds, and to be quite honest with you, that son of a bitch is not comfortable to shoot. And I mean, it's not. You know, 44 Magnum, when you're shooting handguns, you know, they're uncomfortable. So probably what I would do is 2 things unfavorable about the 44 Magnum. Number 1, the damn thing's uncomfortable. Number 2, I get out there with a longer barrel. I don't like it. The sights are a little bit adjustable, but not that much. Now, I could get a different 44 Magnum, and that's fine, but the son of bitches are just hard to shoot comfortably. And one of the things I talked about was practice, practice, practice. Practice, practice, practice with a 44 Magnum is not going to be fun. I can shoot 44 Special in it, hard to find. 44 Magnum is available, it's expensive as hell, problem. So the 44 Magnum I'm probably going to put aside, and just because of the inability to affordably practice, I'm probably going to pass on the 44 Magnum. Now, as a backup gun, normally I carry the little one up here with 6 rounds in it, I'm good to go. But we're talking about a shitload of practice between now and then, and at least 50 yards is what I'm going to practice at. That leaves me another option. We can go up to this big son of a bitch right here, 45-70. You know, again, 6 rounds. It's not terribly uncomfortable. Ammo is available. I can reload this ammo, but it does begin to get a little uncomfortable again and again and again. And if you start buying ammo for it, you know, again, it gets expensive to practice, practice, practice. This does have a decent set of sights on it. But what I would probably want to do if I took this bad boy would be, yes, put a scope on one, which I've never done in my life. I've never shot a handgun with a scope on it. Then carrying this, you know, it's going to take a special rig to carry it. I just can't be walking around the damn beaches and up in the mountains flipping around like that. Too big, not comfortable. But we know the Kimber's out. We know the 44 Magnum's out. So it's going to lead me down to these handguns here. I'm going to have to make that choice. But what I'm going to do is talk about a couple different things. We're going to talk about the 44 Magnum and the 460 Rowland in particular. What am I going to do? So I know you guys may have watched my video on the 9mm versus the 45 ACP where I talk about the tailored knockout factor. We're going to talk about that right now because this is important in what we're talking about. Now the kill spot on that black bear is probably big, you know, paper plate size. So I've got to get consistently hitting that paper plate at 50 yards and inside. And it's got to have the punch. I mean, ain't no bullshit here. I can't go out there with 22. But what we're going to talk about first is, let's talk about the 44 Magnum and put it aside because we really are probably not going to use it. This 44 Magnum, when we start talking about the tailored knockout factor, this thing scores a 17. That's how hard this bullet hits. Now, what the tailored knockout factor, go back and watch that other video. You remember, it's how big a bullet you're getting, how big a projectile, how fast it's going, right? And how much it weighs. All those in factor gives you a knockdown power. How hard is this thing hitting? You know, you take something like a 22, small, fast and shit, but it don't knock anything down, right? Here we go, 44 Magnum, powerful. This one here is 180 grains, it's 1,610 feet. It scores a 17 on the tailored knockdown factor. Now let's go to my favorite round, the 45 ACP. Now, here's the deal about the 45 ACP. No significant knockdown power when it comes to these size of projectiles. The 45 ACP, this one right here, just a 230 grain round nose, I calculated as a 13. So it's a little bit slower than the 44 Magnum. A little bit, don't hit quite as hard as the 44 Magnum. But there is one thing where this has jump on the 44. That 44 shoots 6 rounds. This thing I can get with a Wilson Combat magazine, I can get 10 plus 1. So I can double my capacity with this. versus this. So I can have twice as many this size as I do this size, but the knockdown factor is not there. So how do I solve that? The 460 Rowland. What's the 460 Rowland do? Clark Custom Guns, I believe down in Louisiana a few years ago, come out with this bad boy. It makes the 45 ACP punch up there with the 44 Magnum in a semi-automatic frame. Now, what we got with this thing is, what I'm talking about shooting is these Underwood. I want you to look at this. Look at this bullet, this projectile. Now, you don't shoot hollow points on these kind of animals because you don't want the bullet separating when it hits muscle and bone and then it's just split out. And I got to get penetration on this animal. It's better to shoot through and through with a double lung than it is to hit a shoulder and not hurt the bear. I mean, I've hurt it, but the damn thing's going to run off because that bullet with that hollow point is going to fill up with hair, it's going to fill up with soft tissue. If it expands, it's going to expand before it gets in there deep. So I'm going to shoot something like this Underwood. Now, 45 ACP. Now, what I can do with this, I can run it in the same handgun. So I can take these inexpensive, or even these, even more inexpensive, and shoot till I get tired of shooting and practice. And then when we get time to get ready to go, a week or so before, I start practicing with these, which are more expensive, a lot more powerful, but guess what? I'm getting the penetration, I'm getting the capacity that I need. Now, the knockdown factor on these things, we moved it up to an 18. So the knockdown factor of a 45 ACP moved into a 460 Rowland is greater than the 44 Magnum. So I've got a smaller handgun, a more compact handgun, a higher capacity handgun that I can carry in a chest rig that I'm very familiar with, and I'm shooting something with more knockdown power than the 44 Magnum. So out of what I've showed you today, what would be my choice? The 460 Rowland is where I'm going to go. I'm going to practice with the cheap stuff. I'm going to improve. However, because I do want to make the guide happy, I'm probably going to seriously consider taking this along. But if I take it along, you remember I got to practice with it, and I'm going to have to build it to get it where it's a suitable handgun. So we need to be looking for another video coming out where we have somehow adapted this with a sight on the top and made it more black bear hunting friendly. But for right now, where we're sitting right now, we're looking at the 460 Rowland with a hell of a knockdown power, high capacity, Wilson Combat magazines with probably one backup magazine, a little bit of good luck, a whole lot of practice, and some time on the treadmill. But while we're getting there and moving toward that date, we got to make sure that number one happens, right? It does go. Bang, bang, bang. All right, we're outside now, and you know, thus far, my mind's set on the 460 Rowland from my Springfield's Range Officer 1911. You know, what I'm going to do is, like I said, I've not shot it. I don't know if the sights need to be reset after some 460s or whatever. You know, it's just going to take a lot of practice. So what we're going to do first, I'm going to stick that 10-round Wilson magazine in there. You know what, hell, I may have to do a whole lot of work. I'd prefer this to be opened up a little bit in case I have to change magazines fast. It's not. I don't know. I think this was what I'm going to go with, but don't be surprised if it don't change into something else. I'm going to shoot one magazine full. Somewhere in here, I have a 460 Rowland round. Let's see if we can figure out where it's at. Now remember, 24-pound spring in there to reduce the recoil. Let's see. So I got some cheap light 230, and then I got one of the Underwood 460s in there. Let's see if we can tell which one is actually the ammo. There we go. It ran flawlessly. I think I could tell which one it is. Why don't you guys leave me a comment at the end of the video and see if you could tell me which one was the 45s and which one was the 460. Until we get to shoot together again, shoot safe and shoot straight. Huh.